Hi there, in this demo we're going to be doing some UV mapping. I've created a cube here. The cube is 2 by 2 by 2. You can do that by double clicking here, bringing up the option box, or coming over here to the attribute editor. And coming to polycube, and then this allows you to switch these around. We've talked about that before. Okay, the first thing we need to do is select our box, and we need to make sure that we're in modeling. And if we need to come over here to UV, and if we were just to look at this box before we do anything, this box has UVs on it already. Everything you bring, every primitive object you bring into the, you open up from the sphere, these all have preset UVs on them. So if I go into the UV editor, which is where you edit UVs, you can see here that this is our box flattened out. So that's called unfolding. So for instance, if I were to grab some faces, you see all these faces, this one, this one, this one, and this one, are part of this branch here. And if I select these, those are most likely on the other side, and these are right there, and this one is on the bottom. So right now, these are all connected in one sort of thing. So this just meant that when they applied a map to this, they unfolded it or unwrapped it into this particular shape. And if I were to apply a texture to it, move this down here, go back to object mode, and we want to put a material to it. So go over here into rendering, and I'm going to put a Lambert material on it, which will allow us to go get our texture. So now this has a material on it. We can change that material to a color. I'll make it blue. I'll make it something else because blue is hard to see. We want to change this. I'm going to change the texture name to test cube. And I still want to change this to maybe purple. So I want to be able to see the lines on it. Okay. I'm going to turn on wireframe unshaded so I can see the lines on it. If I were to render it, you couldn't see those, but because I turned that on now, I can see them. All right, select the object. I need to put a texture on it. So I come in here and I press this button, which allows me to create a render node, and I want to create a file render node because I want to pick a file from my computer. I then need to go pick the file from my computer. Hit the little envelope. I go to my desktop where I have it saved, and we're going to apply the one that we had in the picture. All right, I'll have to just hit 6, and you can see that this is a good texture materials job. It's applied those really nicely to everything. So I select this, and I can select the faces on this. You'll be able to see where these little grids are, right? So if I select these 4, I can turn this down too. You can mess with the visual, turn that on and off. So which 4 of those? So those are the bottom there that I've got selected. So that's that's what comes automatically, and that's sort of how it works. This box here, it's like it was made of paper and it was unfolded, right? And it's all flat. And we can grab any of these faces and put anything on them. Oh, for instance, here's a good one. these faces, this is why you put these number boxes on it, are upside down. So we need to reverse those so that they're the other way. So if I were to just try and rotate them around, it would fix it. But see, there it's all attached. It's all one thing. So now they're the right way around, but it's jacked up the materials on the adjacent ones. So we either have to do one of two things. We can cut it. So now these faces are separated, and I can go in and very carefully rotate it and then make sure it's aligned at the top and the bottom. Oh, it's so tight, tough to do sometimes. There we go. And now they're the right way around. And I'll do this down here on a different one, I could apply a planar map to it. So I can come up here and go UV planar, and you can see now it's made this, it's applied the entire map to that square, but now I can take this down, scale it down so it's the same size as the other ones. Oops. And I'm going to have to go like this because it's backwards. Oh, come on. And you can see now, if I turn this on, I can move this anywhere in here. I can have this be, it's backwards. I got to flip it. So tools, modify, sorry. Flip. There we go. Now it's the right way. So right now I can take the square and put it anywhere. It doesn't have to be attached to the main thing. Like you could have, you could detach all these into individual ones. Sorry. You could detach all of these into individual ones and move them around however you like. They don't have to be the same thing. In fact, in a texture atlas, it's very easy to do. I mean, this is how you move stuff around. So let's say you want these to all be these here, this one, all green threes. I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to I'll do it over here so you can see what I'm doing. I'll make one green three here, and then I can do another one on top of it, and then another one on top of it. So basically, wherever I put one of these faces, oops, I can't see where the one I'm missing is. Sometimes it's hard. There it is. So now they're all green threes on that side. So basically, wherever you take this little square here and move it, sorry, wherever you take a little green square that isn't attached and move it, it will, oh, I grabbed all of them. I'll move them over here. It will have that number behind it. And this grid really helps define where those materials are, or if they're backwards or stretched or not perfect or anything. Sometimes when you have a material on here, it's hard to tell what's going on with the material. So if you do this first, you can be assured that everything is aligning correctly. Okay. So let's show you a little bit about why we use this grid in the first place. I'm going to switch our material from the grid to the cardboard box. Here's our cardboard box, and you can see now the words are kind of off because we've messed with it a little bit. It says Ragil. It's like this should be on one side. So let's go look at the UV editors for this again. And our stuff is all over the place, which isn't very good. So let's try and redo our maps. We'll do one each face by itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And we can do UV planar map option box. And then we can, if I hit apply, okay. So this is like a little movie screen that's shooting at your object, right? So this is facing the right direction. So we're good. This is in the X direction. So we know that over here, this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, X direction, we can hit apply again. And now these are, it's backwards, but we'll fix that in a bit. So then we can do these side bits. And that would be, if this is the X, then this other way is the Z. I hit apply. There we go for that one. Apply for this one. Here's the bottom. And we want to do that in the Y. You see, so whatever direction I choose, it's showing the movie that way. So left and right is X, and forward and back is Z, and Y is up and down. And so I'm applying these materials. If I could apply them to one face, or I could apply them to all four. So I've been applying these to all four. So we're going to go move these, our little quad boxes around here in a second. Okay, all those are done. So that's what a planar map looks like. And now we can take our little, oh, I missed one. Oh, and these are all connected. So we have to, I'm going to select what's called the UV shell, which is all the four pieces together. Oops, UV shell. I must have messed up on one. UV shell. UV shell. UV shell. UV shell. There should be 6 of them, right? UV shell. I don't know what these two are. Where are these two? Do I have another object in there? Oh yeah, look at that. And then this one's part of this side. All right, let's try this again. Fix this. UV planar. Is that X? Yeah. Okay. And so now it's made that into a solid quad. So now we want each of these quads to fit into a different piece of this. Why is that one separate? You can do this too. You can cut and sew or merge. So now it should, it's still being cranky. All right, we'll wing it. We'll get into cutting and sewing UVs at some point. All right, so what we want to do is, let's see. I want this one to say fragile there. So I'm going to reduce this. Modify flip. So that it just has this one side of the box, and all 4 of these pieces are showing this one side. All right, and this one is the bottom. We won't do that one quite yet. This one I want to be here. And it doesn't have to match exactly with the edges. You can see that as long as it's within the material, the map, it'll look okay. It depends what you want to have in here, right? Like, oh, I really want the tape, or I really want that corner thing. You can move it around however you like. All right, let's take care. This one needs to be flipped. Modify. Flip. And then let's do this one. can just be a brown piece. I think this is probably the bottom. And this one, our troublemaker. We can make this one another fragile. And this is our top. So this one here where there's like a seam or something. And this one's the bottom. And we want that same thing. And maybe the box on the bottom opens sideways this way. So now we have the top opening that way and the bottom opening that way. And we have one more. That one is already on fragile. Remember, this image here of the box is repeated in all these boxes infinitely. So I could just move this over here. It's easier. And there we go. That is applying UVs and manipulating them in the UV editor. Now, I used the planar map to do this, right? And you can see the planar map, which I use planar map most of the time, but there's all these other ones in here. There's automatic. So let's run through a couple of these and see what happens when I select some. You guys can go through them. I'll just go through a few. Here's automatic. And if I go in here and look at the UV editor, you can see this is what it thinks a good unwrap for the box would be. It did okay. I swear I don't know why that I must have detached the polygons. That's really weird that it thinks that that's a separate piece. But then we'd have to take these UV shells and move them around, kind of like we did before. So you might want to try automatic if on a low poly object like this. It does an okay job. Here's what spherical does, or I mean cylindrical. Cylindrical, you can see, makes a half circle around whatever you're doing and tries to wrap the material around in a circle. And the reason for this is that if we were to create a cylinder and apply our material to it and look at it here, you can see that this is how the auto unwrap for a cylindrical object comes in. How this is flattened out and this is thing, but this is the cylindrical map kind of wraps around it to make this material. So, for instance, if I wanted to use the cylindrical map on this object, you can see there's the big flat bit, and then I'd have to go in and cut out the top bits. So I would, these handles here control how much wrap there is around the object. You can see as I move these red ones around. So if you have half, it'll mirror the other half on the other side, but if you close it the whole way, then it wraps the whole thing around here. And then in order to get the top and the bottom, I would have to select those faces and apply a different map to them. UV. Planar map, Y, apply. And then you can see I have that. And if I do the same thing to the bottom, faces, just deselect all the other stuff. UV, planar map, Y. And there's the map that it came in having. And so all the maps sort of do a similar thing. Let's see what UV does automatic for that one. Well, it did a pretty good job. It cut the top and the bottom off. It doesn't look like it did anything, but it actually did a nice job. Did the same thing I just manually did. So maybe try automatic. It doesn't work with complex objects very well. All right, let's try a few more. UV, there's a cylindrical map, and that comes in, of course, as a sphere. That's good for ball objects, but you always get a little bit of pinch in the texture at the top and the bottom, so you have to be careful. This is a really good one to show you what happens, like where the grid starts coming in super handy. If I call up a sphere, and apply our material to it, you can see here's the sphere unwrapped. But if, and that would be just, if I applied the spherical map to it, you can kind of see it's sort of the same thing. It's just got a top and a bottom. And there's a little bit of pinch here. And you can't really tell with this cardboard texture, but if I go back and push this back to our test grid, you can now see how important this becomes, because you can see like, oh crap, this is all messed up here. Like I don't want it to, these things to shrink and get smaller. Because if I had anything with any kind of detail other than a color field, you're going to notice it. Like a soccer ball on this kind of map wouldn't work very well. You'd have to do something else. And there's lots of tutorials for doing balls and stuff on how to make the map work. It's not easy. You'd think they just have it, but it doesn't really work that way. The automatic ones always pinch at the top and the bottom because you can see it's all pinched up here. So it's all fine and dandy in here, but like once you get up in here, it kind of things. And so that's what these are really good for. All right, and then if you were to put a planar map on this, you can see here's a downward planar map. The texture just stretches through the sides of it. Kind of go like this, so you can kind of see it stretching a little bit better. So it mirrors it. It's like a movie being shown through it, but on the side of the movie, it kind of stretches. So you can alleviate that by making this bigger or smaller. I mean, it's still stretching. It really depends on how you want it to look. Like sometimes a soccer ball is better done this way because you can kind of hide it a little bit better. Spherical objects are hard to put materials on. To UV map, obviously square objects are super easy, and cylindrical are easy or almost as easy, and then spheres are a pain in the butt. All right, that's your introduction to UVs.